inappropriately, that is, represented alleged Ponzi schemer Alan Stanford after he left the agency in '05. The former head of enforcement for the SEC in Texas reportedly dealt with Stanford matters while he was at the agency and was partly responsible for ignoring repeated red flags. He later provided legal counsel to Stanford, an act forbidden by the SEC. Time to let the Willis watchdogs out. David Rare is an economics professor at George Washington University. Uri Man is a financial analyst in Florida, and David Kansas is an editor with the Wall Street Journal. Dave, we're going to start with you.
Well, you know, this is a criticism of the SEC that you'll hear from time to time, that a lot of people who work there, who are charged with making the market safe, enforcing the rules, that their long-term interest is to really work for these incredibly wealthy law firms that represent all the people that they're kind of going after, and it makes them kind of pull in a little bit. This is a particularly egregious allegation, that is, of how the SEC can sometimes not be looking out for us, but looking out for themselves.
They get criticized for it all the time. But, Uri, I mean, wouldn't you be more likely to hire somebody who showed some gumption in coming after you and didn't roll over?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I agree with David here. I mean, the question is, why is it taking so long for people to point at the SEC people who knew about things that went wrong and just didn't do anything about it? I mean, with the amount of time that these Ponzi schemes were covered up, I'm talking about decades in the case of Madoff, and the amount of money, you can only point to two things with regards to the SEC. It's a case of stupidity or a case of corruption. And the stupid people at the SEC should have been fired a long time ago, and the corrupt people should be in jail. And unfortunately, there's been no action, real action. Where is the long list of people who are responsible, the negligent people? I'm for the American investor that was not protected by the SEC, and no one ever got to the bottom of this.
David, stupid or corrupt? What is your assessment?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think the Securities and Exchange Commission is under fire because, just remember, a few months ago we had an employee who spent most of their day watching pornography. So this is an agency, I don't know if you remember or not, but this is an agency that's supposed to protect American investors. They're not doing that. It's outrageous that someone who works there should be able to flip and work for a prestigious law firm, and that has to change.
Well, and we talk about this every so often because there's another case like this, it seems, every 6 months to 12 months. On to another story. The CEO of ExxonMobil, Rex Tillerson, blaming speculators for the cost of oil being around $100 a barrel at a Senate hearing on tax subsidies. He says it should be closer to $60. David, what do you say? Speculation driving up the price of oil?
Well, there's no question that speculation is driving up the price of oil. I think more importantly this is bad marketing by big oil. When you're before a congressional committee, it's like theater. And what he should have talked about was the need for more supply, the need for more refineries, how to get costs down, not blaming it on, I quote, a high frequency of quantitative hedge funds. America, the people paying $5 and $6 a gallon for gas, don't understand that.
Well, I think they understand speculation, though, Dave. What do you say?
Well, I mean, I think he was trying to play theater, but I'm not sure it really worked. He was trying to say, hey, we're doing everything we can to make oil kind of cheap, you know, only $60, $70 a barrel. And it's those crazy Wall Streeters who are driving it way up. And what can we do? We can't control Wall Street. It's not our fault. The problem is, I think his theater was poor. He was too complex. He just should have said, hey, I want to keep, you know, drilling in as much supply as possible. I want you to drive to work on a dime a gallon gasoline, and I'm doing everything I can to make it happen.
Right. It's just that nasty Wall Street. Uri, what do you say about this?
Jerry, you know, I think it's absurd that they want to blame Wall Street on the price of oil, especially when they're in the same conversation, they talk about the fact that they don't want to lose these subsidies for oil exploration. America is subsidizing oil companies that make $4 billion a week in profits. It seems completely absurd. I mean, us Americans, we own the oil that's underneath our country. If anything, these companies should be subsidizing the American citizen, and they should be taxed because they shouldn't be making as much money as they make currently. It just seems ridiculous that they're going to start blaming Wall Street for the price of oil.
Well, any money that comes back my way, I'm happy to have. Go right ahead, David.
I was just going to say, taxing oil will only make oil and gasoline more expensive. So, you know, I disagree with that. I think we need to focus on getting greater supply, more refinery capacity, maybe not blame Wall Street, But I just think these oil CEOs, they've got to get into the real world and go see what Americans are doing every day and the amount that they're paying for gasoline.
Good point. All right.
I'm talking about removing the tax. I'm not talking about the taxing of oil at the pump. I'm talking about taxing the actual companies on their profits, which I don't believe would increase the price of oil. There's plenty of money there that should go right back into helping this economy create an independent, independent energy strategy. Right now, there isn't a single politician in Washington that has any credible plan to make this country independent from an energy standpoint. And these oil companies are in the way as well. I mean, they just make so much money, and they're not motivated to help the country find an independent solution.
I think if you actually drill down on those numbers, you'll see that the oil industry does pay some taxes, certainly more than, say, GE, for example. But I like your broader point that everybody needs to pay their fair share. Dave, Uri, and David, thanks for coming on today. Really appreciate your time. Great points. We'll be right back with My 2 Cents More.
Tomorrow, don't miss these top stories in the Wall Street Journal.
Hello, I'm Kelsey Hubbard. The IMF meets to figure out what to do as its chief, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, is arraigned on sex assault charges and may resign. Plus, the biggest broadcast networks have ordered a bumper crop of sitcoms for the coming season. Plus, the Sam's Club warehouse chain has been rebounding under a relatively new CEO, even as its parent, Walmart, continues to struggle. For more to follow these stories, pick up a paper on newsstands or go to WSJ.com.
Now, it's time to go beyond secondhand sound bites and discover the #1 source for in-depth coverage that will keep you informed and prepared. The Wall Street Journal. Call 888-GET-WSJ1 for daily delivery, 24/7 updates at WSJ.com, and mobile access, all included when you subscribe now. Just $19.95 for daily delivery, 24/7 updates at WSJ.com, and mobile access.